welcome to my world of stuff. My name is Paul Mount. Welcome back to a new video. It's a sequel to the previous video, which actually went on very well. My unboxing of season 17 of Doctor Who on Blu-ray. Got me a few new subscribers, a few comments. So nice to see that people are still out there. So I'm going to do what I said I would do. I'm going to do a review of the set now. I've actually had a chance to watch some of it. I haven't watched all of it, but I've dug deeply into the special features. I've had a look at some of the episodes to see how they've scrubbed up, and we'll have a little look to see how season 17 has turned out on Blue. Yes, so it's season 17 of Doctor Who, which is out officially today, Monday the 20th of December. I was lucky enough to receive my set on Thursday. Not Thursday? Time's going so quickly, I really can't remember. Yeah, I was lucky enough to receive it at the end of last week. And I've had a chance to sort of dig into and watch the set. Now, as I mentioned in the previous video, season 17 isn't Doctor Who at its best. It's from that late Tom Baker period when the production was getting a bit shonky. Tom Baker had been there for 6 years at this point, and he was sort of exercising perhaps a little bit too much control over the series. He was the dominant sort of force. He was very popular, and I think that unconsciously or otherwise he used that to his advantage to sort of impose his vision of the Doctor on the programme. And his vision, particularly by now, was that the series was for children, and he tried to appeal to children and do things on screen that appeal to children, which is in stark contrast to his first 3 years when he was very much this detached, slightly distant, disturbing alien who was quixotic and unpredictable and distant. You always felt with him in his early days that he was lost in thought, thinking about deep, dark, cosmic secrets. And I think that became lost as he became too entrenched in the role. We have a visitor, sorry. Under Graham Williams, who was, I think he was sort of, I suppose now isn't necessarily the place to go into the history of Doctor Who. Doctor Who was very popular under Philip Hinchcliffe, the previous producer, who took the show into sort of darker areas, which were of concern to TV watchdog figures like Mary Whitehouse at the time, who wanted Doctor Who toned down. The BBC responded by replacing Philip Hinchcliffe with Graham Williams, who was less imposing, if you like, on Tom Baker, and Tom Baker played up to that a little bit, and he started playing it more for laughs. And I think in about season 15, the show started losing its edge and became a little bit more childlike, I suppose, and more childlike than it had been for some time. And that reaches its sort of heights in season 17, which, as I mentioned in the last video, started airing in September 1979, and the first two serials had massive viewing figures because the ITV strike. As a side note, I mentioned this in the previous video, and I pointed out the issue about Doctor Who ratings. I did have a comment from somebody who just missed the point completely and pointed out that Doctor Who had fantastic ratings in 1979, and now I can't get those ratings anymore, despite the fact that I'd expressly pointed out that the reason Doctor Who had 17 million viewers was because the ITV was on strike. I don't know what to say. If you study viewing figures, and I take a keen interest in viewing figures, I like to see how shows are performing and how shows have performed. But I think it's foolish and, in fact, madness to compare the viewing figures with Doctor Who from 1979 with the viewing figures from Doctor Who today. You can't even compare the viewing figures from Doctor Who in 2005, which this commentator, and I'm very pleased to receive the comment, don't get me wrong, but you know, you have to look at ratings in a proper perspective and context. Anyway, going off the point, I've covered all that before. Let's look at season 17 and how it measures up on Blu-ray. I have to say that from what I've seen of it so far, I think it's the, I don't want to say weakest, it's the least best served of the classic series on Blu-ray. Now, in these Blu-rays, I buy them predominantly for the new special features because I really enjoy the behind-the-scenes stuff from a historical perspective. I like the new thoughtful documentaries that they do. They've done some fantastic documentaries on these sets in the past. You've probably all got your own favourites. I love the one with Frank Skinner a couple of releases ago. I think it was for season 8, where he went to find out about Terence Dicks, for example. Just fascinating. And there's been really some good stuff. And Matthew Sweet, who interviews alumni from Doctor Who, always good. And there's just interesting background special features that make the sets worth buying. I feel that this one hasn't actually got a big signature central sort of selling point as far as new features are concerned. Now, whether that's to do with pandemic has made them have to scale back the scale of what they could achieve in terms of new material, I don't know. But it just seems a little that there's, I suppose it reflects the slightly lackluster nature of the season, that the special features aren't quite as punchy as we've had in the past and is essential. Now, the best stuff on here, there's a Douglas Adams tribute, which is 48 minutes long. Friends and colleagues celebrate the life and career of season 17 script editor and writer. And of course, Douglas Adams famously broke through in 1978 with The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. This was concurrent with him starting to work on Doctor Who. He contributed The Pirate Planet to the Key to Time season 16. And he found himself becoming the script editor of Doctor Who for season 17. And you can see his sort of wit right through season 17. And I think possibly it's unfortunate for Doctor Who that he sparked off very well with Tom Baker, who also had that sort of humorous element. And that's what you get in much of season 17. So it's much less dramatic and much more sort of comedy flavoured than we might have been used to in Doctor Who in the past. This is an interesting feature. This is good. It's got interviews with or comments from John Lloyd, the BBC producer who was responsible for a lot of comedy material in the BBC in the 80s and 90s. Lala Ward, who knew Douglas Adams very well. She actually reveals at one point that they nearly had a relationship, but they realised that would have been fairly disastrous and they were better off as friends. Tom Baker was there, the indestructible immortal, I hope. Tom Baker was there commenting about his friendship. Lots of other people who knew Douglas Adams. And it's an interesting snapshot of somebody that we think we know quite well. But it emphasises all those things we knew about his self-doubt and his battles with his abilities, his struggles to keep up the deadlines, and the fact that he wasn't really very good at his job as a script editor. He wasn't sort of as hands-on as that job usually demands, particularly for Doctor Who. That's an interesting feature, and I did enjoy watching that. There's also a hour-plus interview with Bob Baker, conducted by Matthew Sweet. Bob Baker, of course, was the creator of K9. He and his writing partner, Dave Martin, wrote a number of Doctor Who stories in the 70s, including The Three Doctors, The Invisible Enemy, The Mutants, Claws of Axos, a lot of well-regarded Doctor Who stories. The partnership ended in 78, and he contributed one more story to Doctor Who. That was Nightmare of Eden, which is on this set. It's quite poignant because the interview presumably was done sometime early this year, and at the end of the interview, which is interesting, he talks about his career, how he got into writing, his approach to writing. Of course, he became an Oscar winner for Wallace and Gromit in later years, more recent years. But what's poignant at the end is that Matthew Sweet sort of reminds him that he is the last man standing from the Doctor Who writers of the 70s and 60s. And he sort of says he doesn't think about it too much. Of course, he passed away in November. So this is quite a poignant watch in a way, because he's talking... I mean, he's sort of... I wouldn't say he's frail, but he's sort of clearly a man in his 80s. That's sort of reflected. But he's quite sharp in his memories, the way he talks to Matthew Sweet. It's just a shame to think that, he's no longer with us now. And it's another sort of link to Doctor Who's glory days that's now gone. In terms of other special features, we've got the usual behind the sofa half-hour jobbies where previous cast and crew of Doctor Who sit and watch the episodes and comment on them. So I think you've got Colin Baker and Matthew Waterhouse, which is an odd combination. You've got Matt Irvin, who's a special effects designer, the BBC in the 70s and 80s. Graham Harper, one of the classic and new series directors, and June Hudson, costume designer. And then the third bunch are the irrepressible Katie Manning and Nicola Bryant, who played Perry in the 80s. And they're watching these episodes. These are always sort of interesting, if slightly throwaway, because from the actor's perspective, as much as they've been in Doctor Who and they've appeared in Doctor Who, they don't know a lot about its past. So, they haven't seen these stories before. And it's interesting to watch their comments. They watch edited versions of the stories. So we just see across half an hour them reacting to certain clips and things. They're quite fun. These are a sort of a regular part of these sets. Now, they're sort of fun, but they're inessential in a way. They're sort of entertaining as a once watch, but really there's not much else to it. The only other really interesting, particularly new feature is Tom Talks, which is a 40-minute freewheeling chat with Tom Baker. I think it's conducted by Matthew Sweet, but Matthew Sweet's off camera, and he's obviously sort of asked Tom Baker questions about certain things to do with his life, and it's much more based on his life than his life and times on Doctor Who. And it's Tom Baker at his greatest, just going off on his little flights of fancy and his little anecdotes about his experiences and the way he lived his life in the 70s, this bohemian lifestyle in the infamous Colony Club with the likes of Francis Bacon and various other artistic alumni of the 70s and 80s. It's a lifestyle that's long gone now. Of course, Tom is now, his late 80s, and it's interesting to see that he's actually very happy and very healthy. So I'm hoping he'll be with us for a few more years, because he is one of the great ambassadors of Doctor Who. So that's a really interesting, worthwhile watch. We've also got a Lalla Ward interview where Lalla Ward talks about season 17 and her involvement in season 17. But this is old. This goes back to 2008. This is an archive piece, so it's her looking noticeably younger than she does in other more contemporary pieces. But you just feel it's a sort of an archive piece rather than something new. We've also got a new, interesting documentary about the making of Destiny of the Daleks, which goes back to the location, talks to some of the casting. So that's interesting, because those things always are. It's about 40 minutes. And a short piece about the making of The Creature from the Pit. Elsewhere, we have, there's new audio commentaries. Now, I'm not a big commentary person, so I haven't listened to them yet, so I can't speak to how good or otherwise they may be. We have some new special effects for Nightmare on Eden, which are, good new special effects, because some of the space scenes in that episode are slightly dodgy, and they look better now, obviously, because they've been scrubbed out well. And we've got on the 6th disc, Sharda revisited yet again. Sharda, as I mentioned in the previous video, has been revisited and reimagined umpteen times. This now splits it into 6 episodes. This is the history of Sharda is that one studio block was completed and all the location filming. So, and it's been animated fairly recently. I think the animated version came out 2-3 years ago. It's now been split into 6 25-minute episodes, and of course, the deeper you go into the story, the more animation there is. It's Sharda is what it is. It's a story that has this legendary reputation, but I think actually it's probably not that good. It's a bit of a silly pot boiler, but it's I suppose this is the final, absolute, definitive version. At least I hope it is. So that's pretty much it for. I don't think I've missed anything in terms of the new material on there. Just looking now. And of course, there's all the special material that was on the original DVD releases of these stories way back when. But I think it misses that one essential piece. I mean, previous discs have had, feature-length things on Elizabeth Sladen and feature-length things on John Nathan Turner, which were fantastic and really well researched and presented by Toby Hidoki normally. And this just seems, again, you have to make allowances for issues with availability and during the we're still in the pandemic era, as we know, and it just seems slightly more lackluster is all I can say. The stories themselves, they are that mixed bunch that I've spoken of previously. Destiny of the Daleks is fun because it was nice to see the Daleks again for the first time in 5 years, but it's a slightly shoddy production. The Daleks haven't been touched up at all. They're just falling apart basically. Davros's mask was exhumed from storage and put onto another actor and doesn't fit properly. There's some it's nicely directed. There's some nice, quite cinematic direction flourishes by Ken Grieve, but you can't get beyond the fact that the studio stuff looks a bit ropey. The classic here, of course, is City of Death, Doctor Who's first trip abroad to go to Paris with a really good script by Douglas Adams under the pen name of David Agnew. And that's a diamond in the rough, if you like. It's acknowledged as one of the great Doctor Who stories. It's witty, it's fast, it's clever, and it looks good. Unfortunately, it is downhill after that. Creature from the Pit is, again, another ropey production, marred with the famously phallic titular pit creature. Nightmare of Eden has an interesting story, which touches on an interesting topic for Doctor in the 70s about drugs, but the production is shoddy, the mangles are shocking. And then Halls of Nimon, which basically is a Doctor Who pantomime with these ridiculous-looking bull-headed creatures stomping about the place, and Graham Crowden overacting to save his life. So they're not great stories. And then Sharda, of course, which, as I say, is available in this new episodic form. So it's not the best of the collections for whatever reason, but it's sort of hard to know what else they could have done to sort of lift it a little bit. So if you're a collector of these box sets, you will obviously want this. It will look nice on the shelves, and it's not a bad set, but I feel it does miss out from, a must-see new documentary special feature. Hello, just popped back because I forgot to mention something which I know is important to people in their physical media, the picture and sound quality of this new set. Now, this is a Blu-ray set, but obviously it isn't material that was filmed in high definition. This was filmed back in the 70s, BBC videotape, some on film cameras. So the resulting picture quality, from what I can tell, and I'm not an expert, as long as it's a nice clear picture, nice clear sound, I'm happy. But it looks great. All the episodes look great. The sound quality is very good. Destiny of the Daleks has got a 5.1 surround mix, which is really very immersive. I did listen to that on my cinema system. Bear in mind, I haven't got a big, massive cinema system yet, but it sounds very good. The sound is very clearly picked out. There's nice sort of effects and added bits and pieces. That's a very good sound mix. Otherwise, it sounds good. The picture is very sharp. It's the best these have ever looked. I can't be any more technical than that, unfortunately, but I think this is as good as really standard definition material can look when it's upscaled for Blu-ray. That's really all I can say about the audio and oral quality, or the visual audio quality of the set. That's Doctor Who Season 17 on Blu-rays available now. Check it out. If you have checked it out, I know a lot of people have commented and said that they were expecting their copies today or this week. If you've had a chance to look at it, let me know what you think. Do you agree that there's something missing, or are you happy with the package? I'm happy with it, but they just wanted a big signature piece, which I feel it doesn't have. So yeah, like and subscribe. Let me know what you think of the set. And I'll be back with some more videos soon. I've got my completely spoiler-rific review of Spider-Man No Way Home, which I'm hoping to edit and get up quite soon, certainly before Christmas. Retro movie reviews, all the usual stuff. So if you are new here, and again, thank you to those who have joined fairly recently, please stick around because there's hopefully lots more good stuff to come. Right, that's me done for now, and you know what they say. Until we meet again, keep checking the stuff.